Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to look at the saving of containers that you've created and the different locations that you've got available to you to save them to. Okay, so we've got this container here that we created in the last tutorial, and if we decide that we want to save that so that we can recall it at any time, this is basically how we do it. So every project file has a project toolbox associated with it, so you can save it to your project toolbox, or you can save it to a database toolbox if you want to be able to use it in other projects or distribute it to the rest of your company, for example. Okay, so the way we do this is by clicking on the container, and then we've got this little plus icon here that we click, and when we do that we will get the option of saving to the project toolbox, or we'll have any other toolboxes that we have in database files that are currently in use by the program. So I'm just going to save this to the project toolbox, and I'm going to save it under the general category. If we wanted to create other categories, we could do that by clicking here and adding new categories, but we'll just save it into the general category for the moment. Okay, so now that's been saved into our project toolbox. So if we go to the project toolbox, we can see there that that's the new container that we created, so we can drag that on, and we have another version of what we created previously. So you can see if I plug that in there, it's basically doing exactly the same as the previous one. Okay, so that now is available for use within this project. If we wanted to save it to a database toolbox, we could just do it in the same way. To illustrate that, I'm just going to go to the database manager and create a new toolbox. Let's just call it test for now. And so this is my new database that I've just created. I'm going to add in a new toolbox, so I'll open up the Toolbox Explorer and just go new toolbox, and we'll just call it example, for example, and save that. So that toolbox is there now in this database that we've just created. So if we wanted to save this container into that toolbox, we could just go plus there and then select it from here. There's the example toolbox that we just made, so we'll click on that and do OK. Now if we go back to that database, you'll be able to see that's the container that we just created. Okay, so that will now be available if we were to restart the program and we had that toolbox auto reloaded. That container would be immediately available to us, and anyone that loads in that database file would also have it available to them. Okay, so the last thing that I want to show you in this tutorial is the validating of containers. So if we go back into this toolbox within the Database Explorer, you can see there's a little button here called validate, which will validate this container. So this is in the scenario that this container does something useful. It's been tested by other people to the extent that it's considered valid, the results that it's producing. So we want to validate it so that anyone that uses it in the future will be able to use it in confidence, knowing that that the output from it has been validated by someone else. Okay, so the way which this is validated is by clicking the validate button, and what it shows now is the person that's validated it and the time and date at which it was validated. It also shows the creation date above that as well. And what you can see is that a little kind of a blue light has been drawn onto the front of that container, so you know that it's validated. So from now on, whenever you use that container, you'll be able to see that it's validated. If any changes are made to the inside of the container, the blue light will go out to indicate that it's no longer valid. I've been able to validate this container which I created, whereas ordinarily if you were to create a container, you would not be able to validate it. Only someone other than the person that created it can validate it, but I've enabled myself to do it just for the purposes of this tutorial. So if I save that now and I do a search for new container, which is the one that we've just created, you can see we've got the one there that was in the project toolbox, and we've got the one now that's in our database, and you can see the one that's come from the database has the blue light on it, whereas the one that's in the project toolbox does not. So if I was to go in there and delete this link, for example, you would find now if we go back to the top of that container, the blue light has gone out to indicate that changes have been made to this container, so it can no longer be considered valid. This should help someone that's checking through your calculations be able to identify specifically which parts they need to focus on and which parts they probably don't need to focus quite so much on.